And the mixing of the colors went well, yes? Did you notice that if you use, once you divide up the shapes, if you use a black arrow tool, it selects everything. You had to select white arrow tool, and then you could mix them properly, correct? So I'm just a little bit curious to know, what color does red and green make?
Yellow.
You sure? Is that a statement or a question? Look at what we're doing. We're learning our colors and we're making, remember preschool? Red and green make?
Yellow.
Yellow, thank you. Red and blue make?
Magenta.
Blue and green make? Cyan. Okay, so we're good. And did you notice, again, this is very important. Did you notice that all of the colors had a structure to them? Meaning that all of the colors that were used had either a 0 or a 255, correct? And that they were all interchangeable in 3 digits. And especially, and including the black and the white. The black is seen as what?
Nope.
0, 0, 0, and white is?
255, 255, 255.
255, 255, 255. Okay. So I'm going to demonstrate your homework assignment to you. Very important that you pay close attention, take notes, ask questions, and please feel free to interrupt me as I go because I want to make sure that you understand. Olivia, you came in late, yes? Okay, thank you. Good, everybody's here. So, we're going to begin here, like where we were last class. The red and the blue make magenta. The blue and the green make cyan. The green and the red make yellow. The intersecting colors, red, green, and blue, make white, or GB. Very good. So you should have something like this, but your own shape, and you're going to use this assignment for today's assignment, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do, believe it or not, is I'm going to make a square over the square. I'm going to fill it none, and I'm going to give it a black stroke. I know usually I say do not stroke anything. In this case, I do want to make a stroke around it, and I'll show you why. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to copy it, Command C, and then I'm going to open up a new file. The size of the file, I want it to be 17 inches wide by 11 inches tall, otherwise known as tabloid. Color mode, it's got to be RGB. And so I'm going to have this. Here we go with 11 by 17. There's my RGB palette. And I'm going to paste my composition on this board. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it down and place it at the upper left-hand corner. Copy it, place one at the bottom. Copy those and place them over here. Now, you'll notice that I did not give you an actual size. All I need you to do is to scale it so that you could comfortably fit 4 compositions of the same composition on this page, and that you have enough white space between them because you're going to use this white space. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. You'll notice also that I made the outline stroke because I wanted to still maintain that 6 by 6 shape. And had I not had this, I would just have this floating on this page, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to identify the full composition that I have created, including the picture plane. Okay? All right. So now what I'm going to do on the upper left-hand file is I'm going to draw a blanket, white blanket, stroke none, over my composition. What happened to my colors? Where did they go?
Under the white.
They're under the white. The white is covering my colors. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that white blanket, and up here I have opacity, and I'm going to change the opacity so I could see my colors underneath. Got it? Okay? All right, look at this combination of colors here. Look at this palette here. Tell me, what is the difference between this and this palette? What is the obvious difference?
The opacity.
What about the opacity? I put
It
opacity
hazes
about
out.
over it. It changed the colors. How did it change? What are the differences? Let me ask you this. Is this color palette exactly this color palette? No, they're different. How are they different? Sir?
The top colors are faded.
These are faded. What do you mean by faded?
They have less hue.
They have less hue. Is it fair to say that they're not as saturated as these are? These are really saturated. They're very chromatic. They're pure. They're clean. These are not as saturated. They are muted, correct? What else? What else do you see? Anybody else?
Or, yeah,
Sir?
like they're not as bright as like the green.
Well, that goes, the brightness goes to the word saturation. These are bright. These are dull. What else?
It's harder to decipher between colors.
You're right. And part of it has to do with saturation. There's one more word I'm looking for. You guys should know it. Ma'am.
They're tinted.
Excuse me?
They're tinted.
Yes, but hold off on that. There's one more word I'm looking for, difference between the two. Squint your eyes, take a look at this in comparison to the white. Squint your eyes, take a look at this in comparison to the white background. What is the difference?
There's not as much contrast.
Sorry?
There's not as much contrast.
Contrast of what?
The colors with the white.
Contrast of
Value. Very good. Look at that red compared to this white. High contrast in value, light and dark. Look at the red on the white, not as high contrast. Okay? Whoops. Okay. So we change the value of it when we add the white to it. Yeah. We change the value and the level of saturation. This is known as tinting a color. A tint is any color plus white in it, okay? And so the level of tinting can go from, and it has everything to do with opacity or white being in the color. Here's a 96, and you can barely see the value. And you see that it's much lighter in value, much more washed out than the bottom one. And then if I decrease the number of the opacity, it does become darker in value, but still there is a level. Look at the difference between this red and this red. This is still much more saturated. This is slightly tinted, but it's still a tinted palette. Okay? All right, next. I'm going to go back and increase this. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to do the same thing again, and this time I am going to add a black blanket over it and put it over that. And again, if I have a 100% black over it, I don't see the colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift the opacity so that I could select it and then shift it so that I could see my colors underneath. What is the difference between what you see here compared to what you see here? What is the difference?
Shaded.
Sorry?
Shaded.
Give me the
Like-
visual difference. What is the difference between this red and this red?
Has a darker value.
Yeah.
These are darker in values by comparison. What else? Talk to me about saturation.
It's a high level of saturation. I might be backwards.
This is a high level of saturation.
I might
Is
be
that what you're telling
backwards.
me?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Or is
Sir?
it low?
I don't think so. It's
If we're talking high level of saturation, which one best describes high level of saturation?
white.
This one does. This is brighter, cleaner, more saturated. Therefore, this is less saturated. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, it was the opposite of that. So when we do that, when we add black to a color palette, we are shading it. These are shades. And I'll put these over. Okay. This terminology is very important because most of us understand the word tint. A lot of us will be in situations where we hear the misuse of the word shade. How many times have you heard somebody say that blue needs to be a different shade of blue? Commonly, what they're referring to is, seeing this and this as a shade or different shades. Those are not shades of blue. These are just two different blues. This is a shade of a blue. It's any color plus black. This is one reason why I don't have you reading books, going online, and doing a Wikipedia because of the misuse of the vocabulary. The proper terminology for shade is any color plus black, tint any color plus white. Be clear about that, okay? All right, so your homework is very difficult and easy. Or difficult or easy. It will either take you from 10 to 15 minutes to do it and it'll be perfect, or it could take you up to 4 hours and it will not be perfect. It will be incorrect. The strategy that you use is critical. So don't just start doing things. So what I want you to do is, do you see this red? I want you to match this red exactly to this. I want you to match this yellow to this green to this cyan to this blue to this magenta to this, and the same thing here. You are not to use the opacity tool over here. You are not to get a blanket and throw it over here, okay? Every color that you have on here, I want you to draw a line and tell me what the RGB number is of each color, including the white background, okay? Same thing here. So that when I look at this, this is identical to this, and this is identical to this, including the background. Don't forget the background, okay? And the background should be in RGB too, okay? When we looked at this, I said earlier, the beauty of the RGB palette with the primaries and secondaries is that we had two numbers that are interchangeable, including black and white. It's a beautiful pattern, a structure to the numbers that dealt with interchanging two numbers, 0 to 55, correct? They were interchange combinations. My question to you is, if we tint this palette, if we shade this palette individually, will there be a pattern, a structure, a clean structure of numbers? That's what I'm going to ask you. So your approach to this is going to be substantial. What I mean by that is, I don't want you just running home and moving the slide. I really need you to think about this, your approach, your strategy. Okay? Sir, did you have a question? You were just stretching.
I did, but
It'll come to you. It'll come to you. So, you go home tonight, you attempt this, and you go, that teacher's so stupid. Because all I need to do is get my eyedropper tool and click on that, and it'll tell me exactly what it is, and I'll get the numbers here, right? Well, It's not that simple, because if I did do that, I got my eyedropper tool and clicked on it, it will tell me that it's 255, 255, 255, because it's only reading the top. Truth be known, I'm sure you could copy this, take it in Photoshop, get it analyzed, do all that stuff. But I want to explain something to you that's very, very important, okay? I'm going to give you several metaphors and a concept that I need you to think about and I need you to adhere to, okay? Let's say I went to the doctor last week. Doctor says, Ed, you're too fat, you need to lose weight, you need to start eating better. And I say, doctor, I am very, very busy. You have no idea how busy I am. But to appease you, I will clear my day tomorrow, Tuesday, and I'll have vegetables and good things to eat all on Tuesday, and I'll go to the gym for 8 hours on Tuesday. And that should cover me for the week. I've done 8 hours at the gym this week, and I've eaten really good. Does that make sense to you? It does make sense to you. Did it make sense? We should go to the gym together. Why doesn't that make sense to you?
Because doing an 8-hour workout session will not help you throughout the week.
What do I have to do?
You have to work out in moderation.
Moderation and regiment, correct? I have to
Time.
get used to it. The other thing might be is if I go to the gym and I use a machine that will lift my arms for me while I'm smoking, that doesn't help either, right? Because I'm really not doing anything. The machine is doing it for me, okay? This is a machine. And what this exercise is going to the color gym, okay? It's working these muscles and working this muscle to work with these muscles. So if there are tools, if there are machines, if there are ways of being able to cut to it, that defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to teach you. I'm trying to teach you how to sensitize your eyes, to work with your mind, to work with your hands. It's all about strategy, okay? So it's not about the obvious answer, it's really about how did you get there. That's the most important part. So when I see you on Wednesday, I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to go, okay, before we look at this, what was your strategy? Somebody might say, well, I just got the pallet and I just started moving bars haphazardly and somehow I got it. Some people will have different strategies. I want to know what your strategies are. And then the next question I'm going to ask you is, was there a pattern to the numbers? Was there a sequence? Was there a structure? And some of you are going to go, nope. And some of you are going to go, yep. But I need you to really think about this first. I need you to think about your approach. And then we'll go over and I will give you the solution, and hopefully with some of you you're going to go, oh my God, that was so simple. Why didn't I do that? Let me go back home and do it and make sure it's right. So when I turn it in, but I now know how this works. Sir.
Do you have a specific value you want the
No, I'm going to
opacity
leave
to
that
be?
all up to you.
Okay.
Because you all have your own problems to deal with. Yes, ma'am.
I forgot, did you say the hexadecimal number or like the 255, 255?
The RGB number, which would be 250, the 3-digit number. Sir.
Did you say you also wanted us to match the negative space within the shape?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Obviously in this one, because this is already done for you.
Okay.
Correct? Yes, ma'am.
Where did you say you wanted us to put the RGB number at?
Oh, draw a line and RGB number. Line,
Okay.
RGB number. Okay. That's why you have all this white space around, because you're going to identify the numbers here.
Okay.
When I grade this, usually what I do is I look simultaneously at the two. Is there a match or not? Okay? Let me also make clear, and I think I said this, I'm sure I did, you cannot use the opacity tool. You cannot put a white blanket over it. That defeats the purpose. Every single shape needs to be identified individually and manipulated individually. Sir?
Do you want us to use the shapes that we made, or do we use circles for this
Use
one?
the shapes you made.
Okay.
That's why you made that design.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody asked earlier, can I change my design? Because Absolutely. I'm not gonna go to the first one and go like, wait, you know. What I care about is your mastering this, understanding this. Sir?
So just to get everything straight, we're matching the
Yep,
ones on the
you
right.
see this red, it has to look exactly like this red.
And like, does it matter like how past, like, the opacity like ours look, does it have to match yours?
No.
Okay.
The opacity that you put on here is up to you. Could be any opacity you want. I'll leave it up to you. Okay? Again, it's part of the strategy. I don't even know what opacity I selected for this. All I know is I like that opacity. I think I'll use that. Okay? Okay? Anything else? Again, the difference between 15 minutes versus 4 or 5 hours. 4 or 5 hours, and if you look at it and they don't look identical, it's wrong. Okay? Anything else?
What do you want to name it?
This is called tint shade match. And what I'd like for you to do is turn in a low-res PDF file into Canvas before we meet on Wednesday, so we can discuss it. Okay?
You said tint shade.
Tint shade match, last name. Okay? Anything else? Are you scared? Nope. All right, have a good day.